Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to show you more advanced ways to use the major pentatonic scale to solo over major chords. First off, if you like the diagrams for everything in this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, Music Theory for Guitar. And this e-guide will be something that you can study and use as a reference for years to come. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to just go download it. This is part 5.25 from our series, Music Theory for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So in the last lesson, I showed you how you could use the minor pentatonic scale to solo over minor chords, but create more advanced sounds by using minor pentatonics with different roots. For example, we took an A minor 7 chord and we could use the A minor pentatonic over it, or we could also use the B minor pentatonic over it and create different sounds, or the E minor pentatonic over it and create different sounds. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to do the exact same thing, but with major pentatonic scales over major chords. So if you just were to take a major chord, we're just going to use a C major chord to keep it simple, but this will work for any major chord. You could use the major pentatonic scale that has the same root, obviously. So you do C major pentatonic scale over the C major chord. In the key of C, you'd end up with C, D, E, G, A, back to C. And compared to the C major chord, that would be root 2, 3, 5, 6, back to root. And that's just the regular intervals of the major pentatonic scale. And you could use this for any of the mode sounds. So you could use this over the 1 chord Ionian, you could use this over the 4 chord Lydian, and over the 5 chord Mixolydian. So any of the chords from any of those spots in the major scale, you can use the major pentatonic with the same name. So if you're over a G major chord, you could use G major pentatonic. You'd end up with these same intervals and it'd work in any mode, whether it was G Ionian, G Lydian, or G Mixolydian. But instead of using C major pentatonic over C, which has the same root name, you could use the D major pentatonic over a C major chord. So D major pentatonic is D, E, F sharp, A, B, back to D. The intervals of D major pentatonic compared to the C major chord now are 2, 3, sharp 4, 6, 7, back to 2. So now you've created a totally different sound by using the D major pentatonic over the C major chord. And as you can see, you end up with a sharp 4, and as you should remember, Lydian is the only mode that has a sharp 4, so this creates a Lydian mode sound. So you could use this over C Lydian now. You couldn't use it over C Ionian or C Mixolydian, so you couldn't use it over the 1 chord or the 5 chord. It'd have to be over the 4 chord because of that sharp 4. So using D major pentatonic over the C major chord creates a C Lydian sound, and it creates a totally different sound than if you were to use C major pentatonic over that chord. Your next option would be to use F major pentatonic over that C major chord, and the F major pentatonic scale is F, G, A, C, D, back to F, and the intervals of the F major pentatonic scale compared to C major are 4, 5, 6, root 2. So now we have a natural 4, so you could only use this as the 1 chord or the 5 chord, because the 4 chord has a sharp 4. So this could either be used as Ionian or Mixolydian. Your next option would be to use a G major pentatonic over the C major chord. And the G major pentatonic scale is G, A, B, D, E, back to G. Those intervals compared to the C major chord are 5, 6, 7, 2, 3. So again, using the G major pentatonic over the C major chord creates a totally different sound than if you used the C major pentatonic. And this could be used as the 1 chord or the 4 chord because it has a major 7 in it, and the 5 chord Mixolydian has a flat 7. So this could either be used as Ionian or Lydian to create an Ionian sound or a Lydian sound, not a Mixolydian sound. Your last option is to use B flat major pentatonic over the C major chord. And B flat major pentatonic is B flat, C, D, F, G, back to B flat. Those notes compared to the C major chord in intervals are flat 7, root 2, 4, 5, back to flat 7. So as you can probably guess, that creates a Mixolydian sound because Mixolydian is the only major mode with a flat 7. So using a B flat major pentatonic over a C major chord would give you a C Mixolydian sound because of that flat 7. So over a C major chord, you have the options to use C major pentatonic, D major pentatonic, F major pentatonic, G major pentatonic, or B flat major pentatonic. And if you're to use C major pentatonic, you just end up with the regular major pentatonic scale intervals, and that could work over any mode. So it could work over the 1 chord, 4 chord, or the 5 chord. If you're to use D major pentatonic over that C major scale, you'd end up with a sharp 4 as one of your intervals, so that would only work as Lydian. If you're to use F major pentatonic scale over that C major chord, you would end up with the intervals of 4, 5, 6, root 2, and this shouldn't say all, it should say Ionian or Mixolydian, because you have that 4 in there, the natural 4, and Lydian has a sharp 4. So you could either use this as a 1 chord or a 5 chord. You could use it for Ionian or Mixolydian, not for Lydian. If you were to use the G major pentatonic scale over that C major chord, you would end up with a 5, 6, 7, 2, 3, and that could either be the Ionian sound or the Lydian sound, so that could be a 1 chord or 4 chord. Couldn't be the 5 chord Mixolydian because it has a major 7th in it, and Mixolydian has a flat 7. Or if you'd use B flat major pentatonic over the C major chord, you would end up with flat 7, root 2, 4, 5, and that could only be Mixolydian because Mixolydian is the only major mode that has a flat 7 in it. And the thing you have to be careful about when you're superimposing these other modes over this major chord is you end up with some avoid notes. So for example, if you were to use F major pentatonic over the C major chord, you end up with the natural 4, perfect fourth. That's an avoid note in Ionian or Mixolydian, so you have to be careful now. Unlike the regular major pentatonic scale, you don't have avoid notes. When you start superimposing, you can end up with avoid notes, so you have to be careful. And again, avoid notes doesn't mean don't play it, just means don't land and try to rest on it. It's going to be too dissonant. Usually it wants to go somewhere else. So if we were to look at this all on one chart, we're using major pentatonic this time. If you're going to play over any major chord, you could play the major pentatonic built off the root. So if you're playing over a C major chord, just as a reference, you'd use C major pentatonic. That would give you your regular major pentatonic intervals of root 2, 3, 5, 6, and that could be used for any mode. So it could be used for the Ionian, Lydian, or Mixolydian, which is the 1, 4, or 5 chord. But you could also use a major pentatonic built off the second. So if we're talking about C major chord, the second in the C major scale is D, so you'd use D major pentatonic. That would give you the intervals of 2, 3, sharp 4, 6, 7 compared to the C major chord, and that could only be Lydian because of that sharp 4. Your next option is to use a major pentatonic built off the fourth. So the fourth note in the C major scale is F, so that would be the F major scale over the C major chord. That would give you the intervals of 4, 5, 6, root 2. And again, that could only be Ionian or Mixolydian. It shouldn't say Lydian there. And that's because you have the perfect fourth and Lydian has a sharp 4. Or you could use a major pentatonic built off the fifth. So the C major scale, if we're talking about playing over a C major chord, C major scale, the fifth note is G. So you'd use G major pentatonic. Those intervals compared to the C major chord will give you 5, 6, 7, 2, 3. That could either be Ionian or Lydian, so either the 1 chord or the 4 chord, and that's because of the major 7, and the 5 chord or Mixolydian has a flat 7. Or your last option would be to play a major pentatonic built off the flat 7, which if we're talking about a C major chord, the flat 7th note compared to C is B flat because the major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. The 7th note is B, but it's a flat 7, so you put that down half a step, you get B flat. So you use B flat major pentatonic. Those intervals over the C major chord will give you flat 7, root 2, 4, 5, which could only be the Mixolydian sound because of that flat 7 when you're playing over a major chord. So that's a more advanced way to use major pentatonics over major chords and come up with different sounds, just like we did with the minor chords. Go ahead and move on to the next lesson where I'm going to show you how to do this over minor 7 flat 5 chords. And you're going to use the minor pentatonics to do this. And this is a way you can use minor pentatonic scales to play over a minor 7 flat 5 chord. So this will be really useful information for you. And be sure to download the e-guide. All the diagrams are in there. And be sure to subscribe because we add at least one new lesson every day.